we should be live.
Well, yeah, we are, I think. So what do you want to talk about, girl? Where do you want to start?
Hang on, I'll just bring up this technology. You've got to love it, don't you? Okay, there's comments on.
Rather you than me. I'll just stick with the gear stick.
All right, so Birgir, thanks for having a chat, and we did try to get together the other night, but the other day actually, but we couldn't hear each other properly. So yeah,
Life
what
goes
we
on.
wanted to hey,
Life goes on.
it does. So yeah, just to have a chat to you, Birgir, really about your experiences during COVID, and of course the latest an email that was sent from your company. Just in regards to mandatory vaccination and what that means for you, and how has it affected other truck drivers that you're in touch with as well. So, yeah, fill us in.
Oh, look, it's affected all of us in different ways. If you're travelling up and down interstate, right from the roadhouses to places where we used to go to and deliver to, initially, you can't use the toilets or amenities because, health restrictions now, but you can drive all night to get there and deliveries. And then you go to the roadhouses and for no service, no food, you can't sit down. And when we arced up, and then, compromises were made, and, you could have a couple of chairs in the corner there but then there's nobody to cook. And look, that side is turning around, people are trying to look after each other, but every time we turn around, that love's getting crossing of those borders and restrictions, and then more and more and more. So you have more waste of time.
So you've given up. Yeah, you've given up going interstate at the moment.
Sorry.
You've given up. You're not going into doing any interstate runs anymore, are you?
No, probably 11, 12 months ago now. I decided that I was getting a bit tired of having stuff stuck up my throat, and tested it 2 or 3 times a week to cross a certain border, and then come back to another one. Everything's fine, and no, I don't cross the borders anymore. I refuse to. I can do, especially now they're coming now with forced vaccine. You can't cross the border unless you're vaccinated. That's got to stop. That's just not on. So, but you can see it was coming. So I made a decision. This is about control, nothing else. We're learning more and more what's going on and what's happening, and they're putting more and more restrictions on over nothing. Then I got the notification the other day, and then the employer stated that it wasn't nothing personal, and he's not going to force anyone, but he's just letting us know what's going to happen if we want to cross the border. But yeah, about 11 months ago, give or take. I had a good job with a good company, and I was running the toilet paper up and down the highway.
Yeah, tell everybody how many rolls of toilet paper you're carrying when COVID first hit. Double bag?
Yeah, depending on the run, we were carrying between 1 and 3 million a load. Coming up to Queensland. That's coming from South Australia, in AB doubles and triples. So when we used to come down, that was South Australia, Victoria, New South Wales border, and Queensland. And each one you had to have your passports and update them, and then when you get to South Australia, then hang on a minute, we've got health workers here. They only work 8 to 4. Hey, we run nights, we get to Yamba at midnight. Yeah, we can't cross the border because we haven't had the test. So we've got to get tested again to Windy. So 3 times a week. Nah, enough of that. So I decided if I could bugger this, I'll just stick with Queensland and run Queensland. And so just gone now and done that, and just bought my truck now, so I can basically nominate where I go and how I go. Don't need to cross that border, and the humour is that I'm not the only one. There's a lot of guys doing the same thing.
How many of your mates, other truck drivers that you know, are doing the same? They're not crossing the border. They're refusing to cross the border point blank.
Well, yeah, well, I've got another guy running virtually side by side with me now. He made the same decision, same choice. He has to run down there to do the same area. He's now only running Queensland. I ran into another guy that I used to meet on interstate just today. He's running a 3-ton truck around town. He won't go interstate. Pure and simply, it's. But this way, we're not jamming anybody up. We're not forcing anyone to do anything or make their own choices. But look, it's going to come down to it, and where the freight's not going to be moving.
That's right. It'll have an impact on the side of, obviously New South Wales State and Queensland. So.
Well, I'm hearing a lot of stories. I don't really know what's going on. I'm not really part of it. I made my decision, my choice, and no one's going to tell me what to do or force me to do something. Especially when you talk about the Commonwealth Law, every premier in Australia seems to be a law on their own. I would call it emergency. Emergency what? Has it gone through court? Have they been checked out?
We don't even have any cases. So how do the aged care workers and nurses? Are now, and the police up here are now having to, give notice or stand aside or go on leave without pay, and we don't even have any cases here as yet.
But aren't they losing in court? There's a few. There's quite a few. Sorry, Birgir, go. Yeah. Yeah. Look, from what I can gather, there's been six cases going through the courts in the last couple of weeks, including a police officer that's been settled out of court. But I believe that the people that in power saying you must get jabbed, I believe they backed off, realising they can't win, because once you go to court, they haven't got a leg to stand on. And even the Prime Minister of Australia said the same thing about 3 weeks ago over on air with one of the news agencies, saying that employees should be careful. You need to check your legal status out. Not quite the wording, but the meaning was there.
Yeah, and we will have quite a few problems on the track in another year or so as time moves on. And at the moment, there's been no mandatory, there hasn't been any cases as such that have come before the courts as far as mandatory vaccinations that haven't been finalised. Well, you said there was one, but there's quite a few others that haven't been finalised, Birgir. But there has been 3 cases. One case where receptionists, and it was only quite recent, that refused to get just the flu jab. So we're not talking about COVID here. She was a receptionist in an aged care home. And she tried to fight she refused to have the jab, and it went to court. She tried to appeal it. The work commission, their work commission, stepped in, and they took the side of the public health orders, and she was fired. And I think there's 2 childcare cases where they wouldn't get the flu, the workers, and this particular receptionist. So there's quite a few different cases out there that I know that they will try and use as defences within the cases that are coming up. So it's going to be very interesting, and until we get some of these cases tested, and better still, take it up through to the High Court, so then we know where we stand. Because at the moment, it's looking as if these health orders are trumping any of our laws, and it's just not on. You can't do that to people.
Well, to me, it's about the freedom. It's a freedom of choice, and at the end of the day, that's the bottom line. You don't tell me what I can and can't put in my body. I don't tell you. So what gives the government the right? And to me, with what I've seen in my past, is that, hang on a minute, if they get past this hurdle, what's going to come next?
Yeah, exactly.
How far are they going to push this? This has to stop.
It has to stop. Yeah.
And you know, sanity has to come in. Hang on a minute, we got what, 16 cases now. How many million people we got here? How many people die of the flu? You know, it's exaggerated media spin left, right, and centre. And if anybody comes out and says anything contrary to the narrative, oh, look out. I mean, it's like, look, I don't know if you like Pauline Hanson or not, whether you agree with that, that's irrelevant. This bloody Jessica thing the other day, the interview they went over with that. And then all of a sudden, you know, some people, because of history, racism, whatever, they want to create a spin. I said, Jessica pulls it off. You know, that to me is not freedom.
Oh yeah, I read about that. Yeah.
And freedom of choice. I mean, whether you and I agree with whether you think Diet Coke's going to kill you or not, so you know, or you want to go original Coke. I mean, that should be your choice, not the government's. Yeah, and that's what it's coming down to at the end of the day. And that's why, you know, I don't see any justification to keep this going with the COVID. A 99.3% survival rate of the people that go into ICU. Yeah, we know the facts now. We know what's going on. Why are we dragging this out?
And of course, you would have seen, you'd be aware of Dan Andrews' mandatory vaccination for all essential workers down in Melbourne. So I've spent so many hours and in the last couple of weeks just writing letters for people to their employers, whether it's about work, and I'm telling everyone. So if anyone's out there and you know your job's on the line with mandatory vaccination, the only thing I can tell you guys is for now is just do not resign. Whatever you do not resign. Force them to stand you down, because if some of these court cases actually go through, well, there may be some grounds for those people who, you know, didn't resign. So that's why that's going to be important.
Well, you nailed it. You absolutely nailed it there, Kim, because if you, at the moment, the control they have in that category is very simple. If you're a casual employee or you're applying for a job, yes, the employer has you basically by your knackers, in manner of speaking. If you're a permanent, especially if you you know, been there for years or whatever, you have grounds to stand for, because if you read the Constitution, Commonwealth Law, and you apply that in court, that always supersedes the states. And the Commonwealth Law states clearly, you're under Privacy Act and Surveillance Act, that you're entitled to your privacy. I cannot go to you or force you to give me your medical records. I can't even go to your doctor and say, give me Kim's medical records, I want it. A copper can't do that by law. You're entitled to your Privacy Act. But hang on a minute, yeah, the copper can now walk up to the street and say, where's your mask? Have you been vaccinated? Yeah. Oh, where's your passport? That's all coming. If we don't step up to it.
I'm still waiting for them to dish out our social credit score system. You know, I mean, this is what's happening. I mean, we're looking more and more like China every day. And look at the state of the country. Who would have thought that we would ever be in the situation that we are in today?
Well, look, it's called how do you get this across without sounding arrogant or stupid? But look, people these
there's free speech on this live stream.
Look, the people these days haven't seen and know what the world has got on display and what it has to offer. That all they see is all the rosy gardens around town, and bitching about whether they go to KFC or McDonald's or whatever tonight. You know, but they need to wake up. And it's like you mentioned Dan Andrews, and you know, I mean, I had the same conversation back in time with Trump. People anti-Trump and all that, and and then Biden. And Dan Andrews is no different. I said the same thing with Dan Andrews. I said, you voted him back in. And Biden, I mean, anybody can see that if somebody lives in the basin, I mean, how the hell is he going to run a country? Yet they voted him in. And naivety that people see here, and I'm sorry about being offended. You can't offend someone. Man, words can't hurt you. If you don't like what's said, move on.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
But with what's going on here, it's a totally different ball game. The ball game is the government is forced to, not the government, because the government is standing back and saying, "Oh, it's not me. The states are doing this, but be careful how you do it." That's around that. And when it's getting there, that's just not on. So for me, no, I don't need to cross that border. No one's going to tell me what to do. I served. I've done my time in the military, and democratic society, freedom of choice. That's the country we were supposed to be living in.
Yeah, well, our grandfathers would be rolling around in their graves right now, Birgir. Look, our past generation, the way we've become today. I mean, what about our children? And that's what I've always said. If we don't stand up for what's right today, if we don't deal with the existing problems while we're aware of those problems, it's up to us so that our children and their children won't have to. So things have got to change, and we just cannot continue to live in a society that's not free.
Look, it's not just about change. With society changing, we've got to change too. The whole point is that, I guess what I was saying, and the trucking game is the same. If you really want to go into it, it boils down to the people. And the same thing is, I mean, the scenario is similar, circumstances are different. You would turn around 2 or 3 years ago, if you saw what's happening today, you would have said bullshit. I would have said, this can't happen in Australia. You go back 10, 15 years in the trucking game, when smokers were smokers, and you drop into the roadhouse and grab a coffee and have a smoke with a buddy. You don't see that anymore. You can't smoke it anymore, so obviously you don't see that. But even back then, it was like when you were a kid, you watch the women bitching in the lunchroom at Woolies, and at a later time you see the same thing in the corner of the truck stop, and the boys are doing the same thing about everything else around them. But hang on a minute, would they step out and do something about it? 90% wouldn't. And you're seeing the same thing now. You're seeing a few guys stepping out and say, that border was typical of that. I mean, there was a few there, look, they did those boys did the right thing by the police. They listened and they took the advice and decided not to make a ruckus. But
so that was it. But Joe, that was the last protest you just had, the recent one. Tell us about what happened when the guys left peacefully. It was spoken to. They spoke to the police. They decided, okay, boys, we'll move on, and of course, no, minimal disruption. And then some of these truck drivers actually have been receiving quite a substantial amount of fines in the mail.
One of the guys stated that quite bluntly, so he was quite shocked to get that get those fines in the mail, I believe, or then informed us more coming. But he was one of the guys that wasn't even part of it. He stopped because the boys stopped. And he stated that. But he was taken out, and the point is they all decided they were going to abide by the law, and everybody was nice and peaceful, it's against the law now to stop traffic, because like after Razorback, that apparently they made that mandatory law that you were not allowed to protest or stop the traffic flowing. Black Lives Matter was not a problem. We'll let you go with it. Construction workers, let's do the cattle work around Melbourne, and then and then put you on the bridge and block both exits. Great idea by the coppers. We show you numbers. Well, sooner or later, boys, you copped it. So don't go blaming the construction workers for having a go. We're going straight through a line that you failed to hold. That's why. And
those guys who was at that protest, the truck drivers that were there, if they knew that they were going to issue fines to the truck drivers when they got home, and they were going to receive fines in the mail. They should have just blocked it down and continued the blockade.
To the best of my knowledge, from what I've heard, is that the guys spoke to the police. Everybody was fine, and no, there was no ruckus, there was no dramas. We don't want to start anything, and believe it or not, the traffic people were edging them on. The people behind them, in their cars, were edging them on, shooting the horns and giving a wave and cheering them on. Okay, but they abided by the police. They did to make a move. There was a suggestion on the radio was that, okay, we'll just turn right across the border, we'll block it on the other side. But the police were waiting there, so that went by the wayside. Which this is how I've heard the story. Okay, so at that point in time, no one was issued or aware of they were going to get fines, as far as I'm aware of. They received whether they took individual truckies out and nominated they made up the reg, or took the radios off the trucks and follow later. I'm not sure how they did it, but I believe the fines have been issued.
That's unreal. And it's unbelievable.
Well, they did the right thing and they moved on. Abided by the law, you might say. So the question is the police encouraging law-abiding citizens, or do they want us to push them like they did in Melbourne with the construction workers, and then blame the construction workers for turning on them and saying enough's enough?
Exactly. Yeah.
And then the police force is supposed to serve and protect. That's what they're there for. They are not there to do the military work and turn on their own people, which is what they're doing now. Mm-hmm. If you walk around Brisbane right now, everyone's wearing a mask. In Brisbane, I drive 50 kilometres off the road. What's going on? Want a cup of coffee? Where's your mask? No one's got any, and that's the same all the way up to North Queensland. You wouldn't even know what these people down south are putting up with. I've seen it firsthand. I've been through it. Roadblocks and all the rest of the crap. This is in Australia.
No.
And sooner or later, somebody has to step up. We have to step up and say enough's enough. As far as Dan Andrews is concerned, sorry guys, I couldn't believe you voted him in again, but they did. You reap what you sow.
How did Palaszczuk get in? And you asked the same question up here, and somebody voted for her, didn't they?
Look, I don't know the truth of Palaszczuk. I sometimes wonder whether she's got investment in one of the vaccines. I'm hearing a lot of stories. I don't know what the truth is there. Do you?
Oh, what was that, Birgir? What's the gossip?
Oh, well, it's even online that you can follow the family tree. Her father, I think is.
I did hear that. Yeah, I know what you're going on with. Yeah.
We're talking about Pfizer now, and if you're a politician with the inside now, mate, you'll be buying stocks in all the vaccines. You'll be making them, you'll be making trillions.
That's where the money is, isn't it?
Now we're getting to the truth, aren't we? Follow the money. It's the same. Follow the money. Because there's people at the moment making trillions out of this, and it's not you and I.
No, it's definitely not me. So, Birgir, where do you think what's next? So, once they open up the states, eventually when they open up, and we get cases of COVID up here, where do you think the mandatory vaccinations will end? Do you think that Palaszczuk will then go, right, well, no, all essential workers like Dan did down there will have to be vaccinated? If that's the case, what's going to happen with your business?
Oh, with my business, I'll be fine. I'll just keep my truck moving. I'm where I'm dealing with. I'm going nowhere near it. Yeah, I was in the right business before I quit running it down south, right, running the toilet paper. I mean, we all eat the shit. Nobody would have stopped those trucks from coming up. In fact, they opened the doors widely when we were coming up at one stage.
Yeah, it's funny how you can be a hero in this country 1 minute and then thrown out of your job the next.
Not a word of a lie, but there was a place in Shell in Hay. I pulled up there, and on the way up, the bloke probably didn't realise I had 3 million rolls in the back of my truck, but he had one toilet roll on the shelf for $32.
Insane, isn't it? Yeah.
We had a bit of a conversation because I knew the guy, because I travel through all the time. I said, mate, what the hell are you doing? You're not joining this club about. And he said, no. The tourists won't buy it at $32, but I'll just make sure the locals have some. So, the locals grab it at the local price, but if you're a tourist, you pay $32 for one toilet roll. So.
That's insane. And you've got another story when in times of crisis, you truck drivers always seem to be there. Somebody told me as well that you drove flour up here to the bakers and Tip Top and some of the other smaller bakers when we had the Townsville floods, and so people the bakeries were able to stay open and make bread. So
yeah, well, we have our many users, and we have enough wheels to carry it. But look, I don't see us any more than anybody else. But it's a job. We do the job and get it done. I mean, it's like any other industry. Military are the same. You do the job you're employed to do. But you try to help others where you can. But at the moment, it seems to be the vote parade seems to be leading everything Australian. I'm quite happy in my truck and being left alone. But the way this is going now, I'm not going to be the one suffering at Christmas. And unfortunately, I think that's going to be the kids, because it's going to be a lot of empty shelves. Patrick's apparently, I hear the wharfies are going on. The rumour has to be 40 strikes planned before Christmas. I don't know what the truth is in that, but that's a rumour. If you want to read the big rigs, there's a lot of other stories there with going on, and it's going to affect everything and everyone, especially when it comes to shopping. And there's more guys like me are turning around and say, hey, and I'm sure it's going to happen. This thing about protesting carrying on, it's already proven that we're not back in the 60s or 70s with Razorback. It's not going to affect anything, and the coppers are just going to come in and hammer things down. Way I'm doing it, and the way many others are doing it, they can't touch us. We just set ourselves up in different ways, and I don't need
to. In just the state, that's right. No transporting down.
No. And the bigger companies are already finding it extremely hard to get drivers. You look at the average age of a driver now. They're not in the mid-30s anymore. It's a lot older. Well, look, this is going to sound blunt, but you look at all the turbines out there now, and you look at the trucks going sideways, and the freight going sideways. From what I heard today, and I heard my employer put on 3 guys, 3 new drivers last week. He lost 3 trailers in the week too. So and one of them was went under a bridge in Melbourne. So. So the point being is that drivers that know the game, know the industry, travel to backwards and forwards. They're leaving the interstate in droves. And this COVID rubbish is just the icing on the cake, for me. Look, financially, it probably wasn't a smart move. That's the truth. Physically and mentally. Yeah, I can stick this. I'm quite happy where I am now, and And at the end of the day, it actually worked out for me. Like I said before, I mean, I jumped into a truck here, and humour, I quit my job and then gave week notice, and then had a bit of a time here, and we had to jump into another truck the following night, and then hang on a minute, that truck's gone bush. It's no longer available. He'd still go to work. Yeah, okay. I'll hang on. Picked up the phone in the morning, and it turns out that I've got a truck and no work. I said, good. I've got the work. You got the truck. I got a job. The long and the short of that one, about a month ago, as I think you already told you, I said, hang on a minute. I don't need to cross the border to make a living anymore. I'm already running up here. I've got the contract, if I'm running the truck and running the contract, everything else, I might as well go my own way. So I took the plunge. But as I said before, I made my choices. I've landed on my feet. Financially, I probably, well,
not as better. Yeah, you would have been better off. Yeah, still doing your interstates. Obviously, you still losing thousands of dollars. But you're lucky that you've got the work where you are now to keep yourself afloat.
Yeah, well, look, we all take the plunge. We all make our choice and decision. I've got to live with mine.
And look, at the end of the day, that's what it is. It's our freedom of choice. You know, whether you want to get the jab or not get the jab. But this, you know, vetting against each other. You know, we've got the state leaders that can't seem to get on. We've now got everyday Australians. You know, you've got the vaccinated against the unvaccinated. I mean, you know, how much division can this country handle? You know, it's just a joke what's going on.
Well, look, but the scenario is the same. The scenario is really the same if you think about it, Kim. Okay, what's your preference in blokes? And what's your husband's preference in blokes? Is it blonde or a brunette? But hang on a minute, you got a problem with the black or the white fella? Hang on, no, let's go to COVID right now. Now it's us and them. It's a cliche that that you play over and over and over, and the mentality of it, the media spin and the government is us and them. It's been drummed in. If you're not getting vaccinated, you're on their side. Or if you are getting vaccinated, then you're saving people. But hang on a minute. When all this started, we were talking about 20 people, 30 people. Oh, it's really hard. And 100 people getting COVID. We got 2 people dead. Oh shit! We now got 60-70% vaccination in Victoria. But hang on a minute, we now got over 1,000 with 1,000 a day or 1,000 that are with COVID.
Yeah, they're up to about 1,400. Yeah.
But it really worked. This lockdown really works, doesn't it? And the jab, you really got to question what the jab's doing. Hang on a minute, it used to be catastrophic at 50, but now you just tell me it's 1,500. But the 70% get vaccination, that's all right. But you can still get the COVID, but it's not effective against the Delta. There's another one coming too. When the hell is it going to stop?
It's not, and that's the problem. That's the issue. Well, Birgir, I'll let you go. I'll finish up. I think we've been on here for a while now anyway, and we started a bit late, but that doesn't matter. The video will still get out there and shared, you know. And thanks for doing what you're doing as a truck driver. Thanks for the interview.
You're welcome. I got my thing. I'm fine. Have a nice day. Lovely talking. Come over for a coffee sometime when I get up there.
Yeah, we will. When you're up in Townsville, I'll catch up.
We'll do that for sure. You take care, Kim.
You too. Thanks. Bye. Thanks, Birgir. Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.